Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to the Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of a band that has been making music for over 30 years. If you have never listened to this podcast before, you are going to hear about the band, the Dave Matthews Band. It is a band that I have loved most of my life, half of my life, something like that. They are what I call the soundtrack of my life, and I know a lot of people call that the same thing. So every week I have a fan of the Dave Matthews Band on my show to tell me their journey with this band that we love so much. There are fans of every age when it comes to a band that has been putting music out for as long as the Dave Matthews Band has. I've talked to people who are 13. I have talked to people who are in their 20s, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So this is a band that touches the heart of so many people. So this week is like every episode, I have a guest that is going to share his journey with the Dave Matthews Band. So first of all, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell us who you are, where you are, and where's your first recollection of the Dave Matthews Band?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Bryant Horowitz. I live in Los Angeles, California. I am 45. And my first encounter with the Dave Matthews Band, I do remember vaguely. Our local radio station here in LA is called K-Rock.
K-Rock.
That'll come up later, so yeah. Stay tuned. But I remember hearing What Would You Say on the radio. I was a Blues Traveler fan. And so I remember, there's John Popper on the harmonica in this song, this band. You know, it kind of caught my attention, but I didn't really pay attention to it. And then I was driving around some friends on a Saturday night, and my buddy Austin, this was November of 95.
95.
We're driving around, LA, and my buddy Austin says, "Hey, I got this CD by Dave Matthews Band. Would you like to hear it?" And I was like, "Of course, I love great music." So
yeah,
he put on, and it's funny because this is a lot of people's bathroom song. He put on Satellite. And I know that I've listened to enough of your episodes that I know there are a lot of people that kind of got started with Satellite. So Satellite was a little different. It had that guitar intro, and when I actually first heard it, I thought he was saying Saturn Night, like Saturday Night.
Saturn Night.
In a clever way, because he's got a bit of a funky dialect.
Yeah.
So with that southern drawl and all of that. So I thought, Saturday night. And I was like, hey, it's Saturday night. This is cool. And then I wanted to hear more of it. And then when I actually, when I was actually able to sit down, I was like, oh, it's Satellite. And I called my friend Genji. By the way, Genji is the lead singer of a Dave Matthews cover band in LA called Fake Matthews Band. So
I just interviewed a guy from the Fake Matthews Band, but not Genji, but I know his story. They met in a parking lot and they started a band.
Was it Booty?
Booty! Yeah, he was just on my show.
Yeah, I actually met Booty through the warehouse, and I introduced Booty and Genji, and they met in the parking lot. Yeah,
that's amazing. I love that. It's a small world.
Booty's my boy.
He's great.
And Genji's one of my best friends. So it's one of those things funny that when we were growing up, we had, we were in the era in the late 80s, early 90s of singles.
Yeah, singles. I love that.
People didn't necessarily buy full albums. But my buddy Genji's dad was a doctor. He had a little more money than some of our other friends.
Yes.
So he was always, if I like one song, I'm buying the whole album.
Yes.
So he heard Satellite with me. He bought the whole album, and we started listening to it together. That was in, like I said, late 95. In 96, I wanted to go see them, but I believe that there was like a school dance or something like that that was in the way of the day that they were coming in 96. So
Yeah.
Genji and I decided in 97, July of 97, that we were going to go to our first show. And so majority of the shows that I went to in the Los Angeles, Orange County area were at the old Irvine Meadows
Yeah.
amphitheater, which got torn down in 2016, sadly. But that was, my first show was July 5th of 1997 in Irvine. And it was, they opened with two-step, which is
Yes. I mean, what a like set the tone right there. Just like you're about to have a really good time.
Oh yeah, that was. I mean, the first song you ever hear ends up being your favorite song of all time.
Yeah.
You know that that start leads you into the whole future.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Oh wow. So, you see them, you hear them, you see them. So, often I like to ask, what were the differences there? Because typically the story is once I saw them, I was like locked and loaded. I was in it to win it. I was doing all the things, right? Because you hear it, you love it. But then when you see them, it's completely different. Do you remember your experience of kind of seeing them? And also, if you'd only ever heard an album version of their music, you hear them live and you're not going to hear it that way. So kind of, do you remember your thought processes that first time you got to see them?
I absolutely remember my thought processes. I saw them and I said, this is going to be good. We listened to, before we went to the show, obviously, we purchased Under the Table and Dreaming. We purchased Crash. We listened. And then when we got there, we weren't even ready for what live was.
No.
We had no idea. This was 97. So YouTube wasn't really what it is today.
Right.
There was no streaming music. We didn't have any frame of reference for live.
Right.
Other than maybe a clip from MTV.
Right. And you were I'm trying to remember, because you and I are about the same age. Were you aware of the tape trading that was going on at that time?
I actually was aware of the tape trading, but I did not get into it until after my first show.
Gotcha.
So in 97, we heard the show, and it just like goosebumps from the first beginning of Two Step all the way through the concert, and we just were like mouths open the whole time. And Genji and I are very spiritually, and we share a brain on a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's much more musical as far as talented, and I, but we're very, very similar in that way. So both of us were just speechless throughout the whole thing, and it was like one giant goosebump.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Hearing it live it was the fuel for the fire. So as soon as that concert was over, that's when I got on and I found B&P, right? And blanks and postage, for those that don't know what it stands for. There was the tape trading. There was the CD trading, because we burned CDRs at that point.
Yes.
And I was heavy into it. In 98, we went again. It was July again of 98. We took a couple more friends and got some more friends into it. And I had the luxury of working at a lot of 80 and 90s teenagers' dreams. It was just during the Christmas season, because I didn't have a full-time job because I was still in high school. But I got to work for two music stores, Sam Goody and Blockbuster Music. And it was at Blockbuster Music in the 97 time that I was able to, at Blockbuster Music, you got to open the CDs for people and let them listen in a listening station.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
That was the first time. At Sam Goody, all those other music stores, you couldn't do that. Maybe some of the ones like out on the 3rd Street Promenade where it was like independent, right? Where you could find like the underground stuff.
Yeah.
But here, we were able to do that. So I listened to Remember Two Things. And I listened to, I remember the day that the Red Rocks 95 came out. And I was able to listen to all of those things and get into it. And then in 98... was the first time there was the Virgin Megastore on Sunset, right in Hollywood, and that was the first day that my friend Mike and we got in line, because they always did the CDs were released on Tuesdays, so they would have them Monday at midnight. They would open the store, and you could get whatever album was coming out on Tuesday at midnight.
Awesome.
Right as Monday became Tuesday, and so I remember the day that we stood in line at the Virgin Megastore and purchased Before These Crowded Streets and just played it in the car on the way home and all night. and the next day, and the next day, and it was, we said we have to get back. So I took Mike, I took Genji, we took a bunch of other friends back to Irvine in '98, and then it was in '99 that Genji said we need to go and see them in more than LA, and
yes.
And also, by the way, I know that you had mentioned in previous episodes that the Warehouse, the fan club, opened in December-ish of '98.
Correct.
I joined 3 weeks later in January of '99. Wow. So I was one of the first, few thousand, I think, to join.
Wow.
And so in '99, we went to San Diego, which is Chula Vista. We went to the show in LA, and then we went up to Sacramento and saw them at Arco Arena, where the Sacramento Kings, I don't know if it's still called that, but that was our first time like road tripping, and it was just me, my buddy Genji, and our friend Chrissy.
So that kind of opened you up to the culture. So traveling with your friends really opened you up to the culture of the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Do you remember kind of that feeling of being around, thousands of other people that were into this music as much as you guys were? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was incredible because we thought maybe we're fanatics, maybe we're
right,
fans.
Right.
Maybe there's not other people like us. Then you get to a show and you realize pretty much everybody is like you.
Yeah.
Incredible. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I remember when we joined the Warehouse, when I joined the Warehouse in '99, and we had the old school chat. So I would be chatting with people from other cities and things like that. And I remember the first time we ever did a Warehouse meetup. So it was people from LA all the way down to San Diego, and we decided to meet in the middle in a place in just outside of Orange County called Dana Point. And we met, and I brought Genji with me, and we all had fun. We stayed at a hotel in Orange County, and we were too loud, so they kicked us out, and we had to find another hotel room. And there was
damn rowdy Dave Matthews Band fans
piled in our hotel room. And that's where we decided that in 2000 we were going to do. I was going to try and do every California show. So in California, for those early 2000 years at least, there was always one or two shows in LA, one in San Diego, usually two in San Francisco, and then they'd do one in Sacramento. So there was 5 to 6 shows every year. And in 2000, we caravanned up and met up with a bunch of people, and that was the first year that I experienced Shoreline. I don't know if you're familiar with Shoreline Amphitheater, but it was basically built, it's about half an hour outside of San Francisco, next to Google headquarters.
Oh, wow.
And it was actually built for the Grateful Dead.
Oh, literally for them?
Yeah, literally for them.
Wow.
For a place for them to perform that wasn't in San Francisco. And that was sort of, like a local California mecca.
Yeah.
We don't have Gorge. We don't have Red Rocks. We have the Hollywood Bowl, which eventually, of course, I saw
beautiful.
Many times.
Yeah.
But Shoreline was amazing. And that was the first year that I heard So Much to Say Into the Bridge. So Much to Say Into the Bridge into Too Much.
Yeah.
Also, we got to hear recently, and we really wanted to hear the Pretty Pretty Girl outro, and we got it.
Oh my
God!
God!
I remember it was a 2-night stay at Shoreline, and it was night 2, August 2nd, 2000, and we just left the arena with our mouths open, and I don't think our jaws went back up for at least 2 or 3 hours.
You left with a sore jaw. You were like.
And then there was so we wanted to go around and see if we could find the band. I love this story. It's really funny. So like 7 of us jumped into a car. We were very cramped. People were on laps. We found a tour bus in San Francisco. And we were like, oh my God, is it them? Is it them? We go up to the tour bus and we knock on the bus door, and it was the band 3 Doors Down.
I mean, those are great, but that's a great band.
It wasn't Dave, but it was the band 3 Doors Down. Yeah.
That was a cool band. I mean, they're still rocking and rolling in 2024. I mean, they're cashing in for their fans that have disposable income now. That's what my husband always says. He's like, every band from the 90s is back out. Like, yes, it makes us feel so awesome, though. I love it. It just brings back, not necessarily memories, sometimes memories, but just the feeling of youth, I think. Like, just it's really, really cool. It's really, really cool. So it sounds like you've really kind of gotten plugged into the community. What was it about meeting other fans besides, just they loved the same music? Did you like, and it sounds like you're still kind of hanging out with those people.
Right. So one of the things that I really got into about Dave, and I know that you always ask this of other people as well, is what was it about Dave that caught you? And it wasn't just satellite. It was his voice, it was his tone, it was the complexity of the music. He could play the easy stuff, the 1-4-5 is what they call it, the major chords. He could play the minor stuff. He could play, Middle Eastern inspired music, and his lyrics were so deep and complex, and yet some of them so easy that you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And then when you meet the fans of this that have the same interests as you, the thing I love is, Dave always preaches peace. He always preaches the future. He always preaches, take care of one another. And that message is really important to me. And then to find out that the other people that you meet are just like this, right?
Yes.
They want peace. They want love. Doesn't have to be hippie style necessarily.
Right. No.
But they are just some of the greatest human beings I've ever met.
Absolutely.
And I am, I don't know if I would say best friends with all of them because, best friends have to be best friends, but
right.
I am friends with so many people I met through the warehouse and so many people I met through the shows. And when I started traveling out of state for them, it was, I always tell people that it's a 3-step process, right? There's 3 things about it. And the music itself, which is arguably the best part, is actually third. The first part is meeting the people. So when I go, and I'm a big extrovert, so I've never had a problem going by myself to shows in other states and other cities and things like that. But these people are so amazing. You meet new people, you become instant best friends, right? It's like the movie Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Yes.
Right away. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Meet people in the parking lot. Meet people next to you in your seat. Meet people at the night zero meetups.
Yes.
So I would meet people through the warehouse, and then I would meet people at the concerts. And the people is number 1. Number 2 is the adventure, the travel.
Ooh, yeah.
I've been to, I think, overall, if you count all of Dave and Tim and all that stuff, 107 shows. Not counting Couch Tour.
That's a lot. Hey, we can count the Couch Tour now.
I know I can. I haven't added it to
I know, 107 actual live body shows.
And I'm not a person that worries about I don't know my stats unless I look them up on,
That's what the hub is for. That's what the almanac is for. We have all of these tools now.
Yeah, and so being able to travel. So I'm a big fan of adventure. And so there were a lot of times where I'd never been to SPAC. And in 2008, my friend Mindy, who I met through the warehouse, she used to live in Santa Barbara, moved back to Buffalo. She called me from SPAC when Dave played 40 in the encore, right? And so she's like, you're coming next year. She's like, I don't know how you're going to get here. I don't know. I'm going to have my second ticket is going to you. I said, okay. She said, you just got to find your way here. So I said, okay, bought a plane ticket. She met me, obviously, and she picked me up at the airport in Buffalo, took me to see Niagara Falls because I'd never been upstate New York.
Yeah.
And then we took a road trip to Saratoga. And I don't know if you've ever seen this. I've been to SPAC twice. One that year in 2009, and then 2017, I got a plane ticket from my wife to and from Albany, and she said, find your way there. So they have a thing, at least some of them, they put on a fundraiser, which is all you can eat and all you can drink in one of those camping areas called Balls Fest.
Oh,
Balls Fest?
Do they do that at the Gorge too?
I don't know.
I feel like I've heard it. Maybe I'm mixing, but maybe. I feel like that sounds so familiar for some reason.
Maybe, but so yeah, basically she was like, let's go. My friends put on this thing called Balls Fest, and it was all you can eat, all you can drink. We got hammered. We played Frisbee, a lot of that stuff. And then we went into the shows, and it was just amazing. And then
So who puts on Balls Fest? Was it fans or was it like a business there in Saratoga Springs?
Yeah,
Holy
Balls
shit.
Fest. Yeah, Balls Fest was fans.
Okay.
So, in 2017 for Father's Day, my wife said, "Hey, I got you a plane ticket to Albany. It comes back the next day. Can you figure out the rest?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, I can." So I got on the message boards and I found a dude that gave me a Dave and Tim ticket for, face value $60. I met him in the parking lot at SPAC. I had to find my way from Albany, and getting home was a kind of a
blur,
a real big adventure, because at that time there were it was like 11 o'clock at night. The concert got out, and there was no Uber or Lyft. There's no taxis at that time. So
you were like,
one of the girls I met that night drove me halfway, because she's like, I can't take you all the way to Albany, but I can take you halfway. So she took me halfway, and I found myself going into this hotel at midnight and saying, is there anybody that could just give me a ride? I'll pay you for the ride.
Yeah.
And the woman behind the counter is like, I do have a friend that drives a taxi, but I can't guarantee he'll still be up. Luckily, he was up.
Ooh,
took
yay.
me to the airport. I slept for a couple hours in the airport and then flew home the next day.
What an adventure, yes. You were like a rock star. You're like, I flew across the country, went to a concert, and flew back all in one day, basically. Rock star status.
Yeah, I think, were you at the Vegas show in March?
I was, yeah.
Okay, so I was there too. And
really?
Obviously from LA to Vegas is not very much. It's a 45-minute flight.
That's awesome.
The 2020 show right before the world shut down and the one this past March, I did basically a 20-hour turnaround. So I got into town at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was back home by like 7 a.m.
Holy shit. So do you just stay up all night, or do you just sleep a few hours in the airport again?
Normally for the Vegas ones, I just stay up all night.
Well, because there's no way, and across the board, I don't care if you're in Indiana, Arkansas, wherever you are, like when the concert is over, even though you might not be in a big city, it's all the people that are left, and they want to talk to you about the concert after the concert, right? And once that conversation's over, it's just more conversations about whatever, listening to music. I mean, you can't just go to bed after a show. I mean, I know people do. But like, I feel like you got to dedicate some time after the concert as well.
Yeah, my adrenaline is always pumping.
Yeah, yes. I mean, and it feels so good to be with people that get it, because, we'll listen to a show in our car or maybe at home or whatever, and you hear something like for the first time that you never heard of, even if you've heard that song 20 times or whatever, and you want to talk about it, but there's not always someone right there that A, wants to listen to you talk about the Dave Matthews Band, because you talk about it all the time, or two, that will actually get it, right? And so now you found yourself with an unlimited amount of people that want to share in that excitement, and it's such a good feeling.
Yeah. In 2001, I did my first Gorge trip, and I did it with my friend Anu, who also kind of got into the band with me in high school, and he was a fan, but not to the same level as myself.
Yeah.
So my first Gorge trip was not as memorable as my other three. I've been to the Gorge 4 times now.
Wow.
In 2001, we camped out at the Gorge campsite, and I loved every moment of it. He was kind of over it after the second show. Stayed for the third show, but it was kind of like, okay, right? And I'm like, this isn't my people. This is not my. I was like, you're good, but you're not in it the same way I am. So next time I'm going to take someone else.
Yeah, you're out.
in 05 and 06, I took Genji with me, and it changed our lives.
Really?
But what I wanted to bring up is the fact that how I got to meet some of the members of the band.
Ooh, yes. Who's not? I definitely want to hear this, and I know everyone that's listening to it will want to too.
Yeah. So the first time that I got to meet a band member was they did a concert in 2000. They did a concert at Dodger Stadium. And so I got to go, and there were, I always noticed at shows that some people had these little stickers on their arm or on their leg that said like lounge.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know, is that backstage? What is that?
Yeah.
And so the lounge was just sort of a place that was not quite backstage, but it was off to the side. And people could get like free drinks and things like that. And it's usually like music executives and friends of the band.
Gotcha.
Right? Things like that.
Yeah.
So,
I've never been that cool.
Yeah, exactly. I was never cool enough. But in 2000, at the end of the show, somebody had one of those passes, and they were like, oh, I went before the show and I have to leave. So do you want this? And I was like, yeah.
You could have made me pay for it. I would have paid for it, dude, and you're giving it to me for free?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go in there first for a few minutes just to look around, maybe get a drink, and then I'll come out and I'll give it to Genji.
Yes.
And so, so I went in, and there was Roy having a drink, and I got to go
shit.
up next to him and order a drink. And on the other side in the lounge was the Olsen twins.
How weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. So I said hi to him. I said I'm a big fan. I cheersed him, and then I took my drink. And
So are they fans? Are they fans of the Dave? I mean, I guess they're fans of the Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, back in the day they were.
What's up, Olsen twins? Come be on my show.
I couldn't tell you if they're still into it 24 years later.
I don't know. Whatever.
I am.
Yeah, me too.
So that was 2000. That's the same year that we went up to San Francisco and had that whole caravan with our friends, and we got to experience Shoreline, and that was it. We were hooked.
Yeah.
There was no going back at that point. I also, being in LA, I had the opportunity when Jay Leno had Dave on, I had hookups to get me tickets to Jay Leno, so I didn't have to wait in line, so I got to see them. One of the performances was them just playing Jay Leno. I've also seen them when they played the Ellen show.
Oh, wow.
Because I just was able to get tickets. And actually, through the warehouse, they had the ability for it when they played the Ellen show, like back in 2007 or something like that.
What was it like to see them where they had they had a time limit that was very, like, restrained, I guess? It was, you have to fit into this 3 minutes that were 1 minute, whatever. I mean, was it different? Did it feel different?
It was a little bit different because you're not used to them being, like, part of the reason that you love them is they're unrestrained.
Yes,
They get to walk you through this whole journey. And here
Yes.
they have to be kind of succinct. But at the same time, like at Jay Leno, I was up in the bleachers. But for Ellen, we were right up next to them. Like, you're 5 feet
Holy
away
shit.
from them,
That's awesome.
right? And so that was really cool too. We didn't get to like shake hands or anything like that. But I can tell you about my favorite all-time story, and a lot of people's favorite story of mine, is how I got to originally not just meet Dave, but sit on stage behind him for a small show. So
What?
as I told you, the local radio station is called K-Rock. Right? And K-Rock is the morning show guys who are no longer doing their thing, but they did it for like 30 years. Kevin
Wow.
and Bean was the name of the show.
Kevin and
Bean did a lot of acoustic breakfasts with people like Radiohead. They did a breakfast with with Dave, and they did
awesome.
breakfast with YouTube.
I would get up for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they choose a local venue. There's only like 200 people that they can invite. And then the artist or artists, you have, basically it's donuts and orange juice. That's your breakfast. But you get they do like a 1 hour, 1.5 hour like show with songs.
So they feed your soul as well.
Absolutely. So that year, K-Rock said, we're going to have a contest for about 2 weeks where we're going to do trivia, and we're going to see if the true fans, you have to be caller 20, and you have to answer the trivia question, and you can get a ticket to be in the crowd, one of those 200 or so people, to see Breakfast with Dave Matthews. So for 2 weeks, I was on the phone. I was trying to be caller 20, and it never happened. And these questions were so easy.
Oh,
Just
damn.
so easy. Where's the band from? Name the drummer. Blah blah blah. I'm just like, are you kidding me? This is trivia that my son knew when he was 2.
Exactly.
So I couldn't get through. And then finally, they said, tomorrow we're gonna have you call in, and if you can do something crazy on the air, we'll give you a ticket not just to be at the show, but to sit on stage behind him when he plays. Like on pillars.
What?
And I was
Oh my God.
oh my God.
Like totally fangirling. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. The show started at like 6 a.m. So I got up at 5. I called in at 5:30, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to do yet. Maybe if I have an old stereo in my apartment, right? Maybe if I break that stereo on the air. And the guy's like, people are breaking more and more expensive stuff. That's probably not going to cut it. And I said,
Yeah.
okay. And I lived right by we call them freeways, not highways here.
Right.
405 freeway. I lived right by there. And so I said, at 6 o'clock in the morning, there's a lot of rush hour traffic, so it's not like cars are speeding. I could walk on the shoulder of the freeway and you could hear the cars. And he's like, no, that sounds a little dangerous. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
So he told me, think about it and call back. So I called back half an hour later after racking my brain. And so I called back, same guy answered, and I was like, look, I'm still looking for a great idea because I really need to do this. This has to happen. And I said, I woke up, I'm still sitting in nothing but boxer shorts, and I'm just trying to think of what to do. And he goes,
there's your idea.
He goes, what's around you? Like, what's down the street? And I was like, there's like a ice cream place. There's like a CVS. Oh, about a mile away from here, there's a Denny's. And he goes, there's a Denny's?
Bingo.
And right away, I knew exactly what he was thinking. And I said, are you telling me, and let me just ask to make this clear. Are you telling me that you want me to maybe walk into the Denny's in just my boxer shorts and try to order food? And he goes, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And he said, if I do that, you know, you think they'll put me on the air? He's like, I guarantee I'll put you on the air if you do that.
I'm gone.
So I was so excited by this. My roommate had just broken his wrist in like 6 places and needed surgery that day.
Oh,
right? Shit. And so he woke up really groggy. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I wake him up and I'm like, hey, dude. And he's like, what? I said, put on a hat, put on a jacket. You need to drive me to Denny's. And he goes, what? And he's, by the way, he was a big guy.
You sound like a total crazy person at that moment, right?
Yeah. It gets better. It gets better. So I said, I was so excited by this. I didn't even bring clothes with me. I just hopped in the car in my boxers.
It's over.
And so he drove me, and I said, just drive me to Denny's. And he's like, what? He wasn't even awake. What is going on? I said, drive me to Denny's, wait in the car, turn on the radio. Turn on K-Rock. And he goes, okay. And I'm on, like, I have my flip phone, my flip phone.
Yes.
And so this is 2001, by the way.
I'm surprised you had a phone. You were fancy.
I walk into the Denny's while I'm on the air with Kevin and Bean. And I walk up to the counter. Nobody's inside. It's a cook,
one
waiter, and the manager. And I said, can I order some breakfast? And I have the phone in my hand, right? And I said, can I get some pancakes? Can I get some eggs or something like that? And the manager was just...
Like, what the fuck?
Me, just staring me down. And I was like, oh, is it not breakfast time? Do you want me to order some lunch? Can I get like a turkey sandwich or something like that? Maybe a steak? And she just wasn't budging. Like, it wasn't getting a reaction.
Not funny to them.
Just staring me down.
Nope.
And so Kevin and Bean are on the phone, on the line. I'm on the air. And they go, Bryant, can we have a sidebar? Can we talk to you for a second? So I said, one sec. And I walked towards the door, and I was like, what's up, guys? What's up? And they're like, I don't think they're going to serve you. And I said, I don't think they're going to serve me either. Like, and then I looked over at the lady, and I said, look, you probably just think I don't have any money. I have a wallet on me. You just can't see it.
Yeah.
And of course, she did not laugh.
No.
She did not think it was funny.
Not funny.
And Kevin and Bean said, well, you know what you got to do, Bryant? And I was like, no, actually, but I bet you're going to tell me. And they said, yeah, you got to moon her. And I was like, I have to moon her? I was like, well, let me think. I got one hand on the phone. I got one free hand. Sure. So I turned around and I was like, you guys really aren't going to serve me, are you? And she said, nope. And I was like, okay.
Boom.
And I mooned it. And I gave him the moon.
You gave them a moons over their hammy. Isn't that their sandwich? Moon over hammy or something?
Yeah. So she said, that's it. I'm calling the cops. And then Kevin and Bean said, Bryant, run. So I ran into the car. Yeah, I booked it. Didn't have clothes to change into, and I told my roommate, get out of here before the cops come. They loved it so much. And my friends, my Dave friends, my warehouse friends, they nicknamed me Moons Over My Hammy.
Hell yeah! That's how, I will only remember that now. That is your name. That's the name of this episode.
Perfect.
Yes!
That was amazing. We had Krispy Kremes and orange juice. I got to sit on stage behind him. One of my friends, Justin, was in the crowd. So I had, like, back then, we still had the disposable cameras.
Yeah.
So yeah. I had one behind him. I gave my friend Justin one who was in the crowd. So I got pictures of me on stage behind him, and I got pictures of me, and I took pictures of his back and him, like, turning around towards me.
Yeah, you got to prove that shit. Like,
that one was absolutely amazing. I think he played 7 songs in
Oh,
that hour
wow.
and a half, and they did an interview with him.
It felt like 2 minutes, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. It was nothing compared to it. Yeah. So I got to shake his hand, but I did not get to like talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
So that was almost my biggest regret, because I'm like, man, I had the chance to tell him why we were up here.
Right.
People did some crazy shit.
Right. You have no idea what I did to get here.
Yeah. I don't actually know what the other people did. I just know what I did. Right. And I was like, and then I had that one moment where I'm like, would that creep him out? Because you just talked about how it seems a little extreme, a little creepy. And I'm like, I don't think it would, but man, if I could just tell him.
It's for shits and giggles. That's exactly what it
was. So 2001, later, like 3 months later, was the summer tour. And I did, there was no Sacramento show. There was no San Diego show. There was one show in LA. There was 2 shows in San Francisco, and then they were doing. This was the first time that they headlined, that I knew that they were doing Vegas.
Oh wow, yeah.
They did Sam Boyd Stadium, where UNLV football plays.
Gotcha, that's cool.
And it was kind of a festival show. Is one of the people I hate the most, which is Macy Gray. Her voice is like nails on a chalkboard. But
I like. I like her, but yeah.
I avoided her at all costs. But I got to see everybody else. So in those 5 shows, they had the same opener, which was this African singer named Angelique Kidjo. And, of course, you probably know that he guested on her album.
No.
Okay. So Angelique Kidjo is an African singer. She's amazing. She would come out when she opened for him a couple times and duetted Satellite with him.
Really?
He sang a song on her album back then.
No way.
So we got to see her 5 times in the 5, or at least I got to see her 5 times in the 5 shows I went to.
Wow.
When we got to Vegas, so Vegas was show 4 and 5. And the night in between night 1 and night 2, we were at Mandalay Bay Casino.
That's cool.
Just kind of walking through the casino, and we noticed the drummer from Angelique Kidjo's band. His name was Tony. And we're like, hey, Tony, you're Tony, right? And he's like, yeah. And we're like, hey, me and my friends, my friend Jenny, we said, we saw all 3 California shows, and we're here to see both Vegas shows, and you guys are awesome. Like, you're very different, this opening band, but we love the vibe, we love the music, we love the energy. It really gets us started to get to Dave.
Yeah.
And so he was like, that's really cool. So the next day, the last day of the tour, in 2001, we went to the show early. Jenny and I went to the show. We were like 5th row, right? I got really good warehouse seats. And at the there was, it was Angelique, it was Macy Gray, then it was Government Mule, and then it was Dave. So it was like a little mini festival.
Yeah.
So after, not very many people were there for Angelique. And afterwards, we saw Tony coming off the stage, because we were so close to the side of the stage. And before they had gone on, my friend Jenny said, I really want Angelique's CD. I want to get Angelique Kidjo's CD. Let's go to the merch booth. So we did. And we had it. And when we saw Tony come off stage, we were like, hey, Tony. And he said, yeah. Tony. Exactly. So can we have you take this backstage, and can we have you give it to Angelique and the band to sign, like the cover, and then give it back to us? That would be really awesome. Yeah. And then 3 of my other friends, my friend, another Jen, and then 2 other people came up to where we were sitting, and Tony left. And then he came back like 2 minutes later. I was like, there's no way he got the signatures, the autographs that fast. And he goes, how many people are with you guys? And I was like, well, it's the 2 of us, but there's really 5 friends here. Like, we're all big Dave fans. And he goes, you know what? Come backstage with me so you can meet Angelique yourself.
Hell
and I was like, say what? And he goes, yeah, come back. Angelique's totally cool. The whole band will sign it. You can meet her. She would love to meet fans. And we were like, sign me up. Yeah. So we followed Tony backstage. And one of the funniest things of this story is that we went by the trailer where Macy Gray was. And everybody was like, oh, I want to go say hi. And I was like, I don't. I'll hang back here with Tony. So the other 4 of them went and knocked on her trailer, and she could not have been meaner to them.
No way.
She was like, go away. I don't want you here. And I was
What?
like, that basically confirms what I, and it could have been just.
It could have been a bad day. Her cat could have just died. We
It
don't
could have
know.
been a bad day,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean that's who she is.
But it left a bad taste in your mouth again.
But it was my confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Right? So we went back and we got to go in the courtyard area backstage, and Angelique and her whole band was so happy to meet us, and they said, that they were happy to sign the CD. And then I look over to my right, and about 50 feet away was Dave and his very, very pregnant wife, Ashley, because she was pregnant with the twins.
Oh.
And I kept looking over, and I kept looking over, and I kept looking over, and Angelique saw me, and she goes, Dave's really friendly. Did you want to go meet him? And I was like,
talk to him?
Can we? Because we're not officially back here. We don't have passes or anything. And she goes, no, totally cool. She goes, go up and say hi. And so I was like, okay. And the other ones were too nervous to do it, so I was like,
sure,
I'm the extrovert. I'll go do
it.
Yeah. I walked right up. I said hi to Ashley. I said, congratulations on the upcoming babies. And she said, thanks. Didn't really know who I was, so she was.
Of course, yeah.
And then I got to go see Dave, so I tapped him on the shoulder, and I was like, hey, Dave, my name's Bryant. These are my friends. We are fanatics. We love you. And we got to talk to him, so he said hi. He met everybody. They all came over. And then I wanted to get the validation for my stunt.
Yeah.
So I said, Dave, do you remember a couple months ago when you were in LA and you did the breakfast with Kevin and Bean at the Troubadour? And he goes, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. I was like, yeah. Did you notice that there was about 20 people sitting behind you on stage on pillows? And he's like, yeah, I did notice that. And I said, did you wonder why they got to sit up there and not in the crowd? And he's like, I didn't really think about it, but now that you mention it, yeah. And I was like, well, we won a radio contest where we had to do something kind of sketchy, kind of weird, and funny to be able to be up there. I was like, I would love to tell you what I did. And he's like, I'm listening.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. I said, well, here's the story. I said, and then I told him the whole story. And I was like, so I was nicknamed Moons Over My Hammy, and some of my other Dave friends were like, let me get this straight. You mean to tell me you dropped your draws for Dave? And I was like,
yes, you did.
In a sense, yes, I did.
And you would do it again.
And I would do it again. And so I told Dave, and I was like, that's not too creepy, right? And he was like, that's fantastic.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Yes. And then he stopped for a second. He stopped and he goes, how did they know? Like, was there a camera filming you? And I was like, no cameras. But I was on the phone. I was on the flip phone on the air live with the radio station. So when the manager yelled, I'm calling the cops, they knew it was real. And he goes, all right, that's cool.
Yeah.
From the man himself.
Oh, that is awesome. Man, don't you wish that was on video of that whole thing? I mean, that would be so good. Because as you're telling me, I'm envisioning it in my head, and I'm like, oh shit, I wish this were a video that we could throw in to show everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I want to just talk a little bit about your past. I know that in your past, you haven't always been around people that necessarily liked the Dave Matthews Band. And these people knew who he was because they had some clout themselves. So tell us about that interesting part of your life.
So when I was growing up and going through school and getting into Dave, one of the things that I had the privilege of doing, and probably one of the reasons that I was so comfortable going up to Dave, is that I got an interesting job out of high school. When I started college, a couple friends of mine worked at the Playboy Mansion in Los Angeles. And this was 1997. A couple friends of mine worked there, and the way that it works is you can't just put an ad in the paper to work at the Playboy Mansion.
Sure.
Or everybody and their mom would sign up.
Absolutely.
So it was like a catering gig. If you know anything about catering gigs, it's kind of like word of mouth. It's like, hey, I have a guy, he's going to be solid or she's going to be solid. You should give them a try, give them a spin. If you like them, hire them for more events.
Right.
So there was the day-to-day mansion stuff where we had butlers inside the house, and then there was parties in the backyard. And everybody thinks of like the big Playboy parties, but there was a lot of little fundraisers and little individual parties as well that didn't need that much staff.
Right.
And so I was hired on in June of 1997, which was just 1 month before my first Dave show.
Wow.
And so I got to work at a place that was just filled with celebrities and musicians and things like that. It's pretty cool. During my time there, I got to meet Blues Traveler. I got to meet the Chili Peppers, the Black Eyed Peas. I got to hang out with Adam Duritz of Counting Crows.
Wow.
And
Wow.
things like that. And one of the things I always wanted was to get Dave Matthews Band up there.
Yeah.
You're in LA. You guys got to come up, because that
Right.
would have been my chance.
Hell
to
yeah.
Not only to serve them drinks and
Yeah.
then hang with them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I actually I was going to say that there were a few people there. Most of the people there didn't get it.
Right.
But there were some people there that I met that were that felt a little similar, and then a couple of Playmates friends of mine that were Dave fans that I was able to then go hang with them at a concert or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And things like that. I think in talking about meeting the band members, so before Jeff Coffin joined the band, I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, but he was in Bella Fleck and the Flecktones.
Yeah.
And if you know the live tracks and things like that, Bella Fleck has collaborated with Dave. He was playing the banjo in Before These Crowded Streets on the album, and their band was a lot more jazzy. Right?
Yeah.
But they were amazing, and they would sometimes, sit in with Dave. And my favorite was when they played number 41, because they would play a song of theirs called Sojourn of Arjuna in the ending. And some people may recognize this when they played it. It would go do 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 do. And it was in the breakdown solos of 41.
Gotcha.
Which was amazing. So in probably 2005, because it was a couple years before he joined the band, my friend who was the head of PR at Playboy, he's like, "Hey, you like that band Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, they're signed up to do a tour of the Mansion because they're playing a show next door at UCLA." And I was going, so I was like, "Oh." And he's like, "Well, since you like them, I was wondering if you'd mind giving the tour with me." And I was
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I was like, "You don't have to pay me for this. I'll come up and do that."
For
So
free.
Bella,
I will pay
Jeff
you.
Cochran, and Future Man and Victor Wooten. And I got to give them a tour of the Mansion.
That's amazing.
And they gave me tickets to their show.
Wow. So you got to go.
That was at like noon. And then they went over to UCLA, and the show was like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And then after the show, they were just kind of hanging out, this place called Royce Hall. And they were just hanging out, and they invited me to come down and hang out with them. So
Oh my
I got
God.
to talk to Jeff, and I got to talk to all the guys, and it was incredible.
Right? That
It
sounds
was
incredible.
absolutely incredible. So I knew who Jeff was a long time before he actually joined the band.
Wow.
And that was one of the most, incredible sort of happenstance
That's
meetings.
Dude, you have some of the coolest stories. I mean, no one has a journey that looks exactly the same, but in your life in general, you've had some great opportunities. Maybe it's a lot because of where you live. I mean, LA, there's a lot of things happening and a lot of opportunities, but also, you have to have that personality. You have to be able to talk with people. I mean, that's how you get in with people is the gift of gab, right? Like there's a great way. And you're good at that. And you're good at that. So that's given you a lot of opportunities. So what time frame was it? And I can't even remember the name of the show that was a big hit at the Mansion. What was that called?
So 2005 till
Okay.
2011 was The Girls Next Door.
Yeah, The Girls Next Door. I mean, I watched it. I think everyone did.
So I was featured in every episode of, pretty much, at least for a couple seconds, in every episode of season 1. Originally, the show was going to be called Hef's World, and actually, if you look up on YouTube, there is a pilot episode for Girls Next Door called Hef's World, because when they first shopped it to the networks, it was going to be about the upstairs-downstairs relationship between Hef and the girls, and then the staff.
Yeah.
The guy who created the show, he used to come up for something called Manly Night. So the only night of the week that the girls weren't necessarily around was Monday nights, and all the guys, like old musicians and actors and directors and things like that, and they would order dinner from a menu and vote on an old movie to watch.
Yeah.
And so because there was no girls, I didn't have to worry about what we called fraternization. So I used to play pranks on the guys, and I used to joke around with them. And it was because of that the producer of the show, Kevin, was like, yeah, that was kind of one of my ideas for the show. So originally it was going to be called Hef's World, and then they decided it would be better if the girls were the main feature. And I was like, that's fine with me. But that also meant that we didn't get paid and we had cameras in our face all the time.
True.
But it was okay. So in season 1 of the show, I was in every episode. And then in 2006, I got accepted into a PhD program for psychology at UCLA. So I was still working at the mansion sporadically. I was still there 1 or 2 days a week and then working parties. And then because I was, if you don't know, UCLA is like half a mile away. So if people would call in sick to work, my boss would call me up and he'd be like, hey, are you in class at 4 o'clock or can you come cover a shift till midnight? And I'd be like, no, I can come. And I would just walk across the street.
Wow.
So I did that show off and on. I was in, like I said, all the episodes of the first season. And then I was in sporadic episodes of the continuing seasons.
That is crazy. I mean, it doesn't stop. You just keep going with your story and it keeps getting better and better. I love it. I love it.
The funniest thing about that is that I had a general rule. I had an understanding with my boss who did the scheduling, not my boss like Hef, but like my boss who did the scheduling.
Yeah.
And the rule was I will work Christmas. I will work New Year's. I will work Thanksgiving. I will work every holiday known to man on 2 conditions. 1, you give me Super Bowl Sunday off because that's my holy day. Yeah. And 2, you give me my days.
Yeah. It's
I would be going to
non-negotiable.
Yeah. So, in 2005, my mother passed away in 2004. My father passed away in 2005. It was about a year apart. And I remember that there was a little bit of, I was a college student.
Yeah.
The mansion was a great experience, but it didn't pay a lot more than the bills.
Really?
Huh. Yeah, it wasn't a high-paying gig.
Yeah.
You could get people to work for peanuts just for
probably for free absolutely.
Right. And there were people that worked one day just to say they got fired there. It's absolutely true.
I believe it.
So I didn't make a lot of money. And when my father passed away, and it was kind of a crossroads of my life, my parents had just passed, and I had gotten them into Dave. My mom always was down to get into whatever things I liked.
Yeah.
My dad wasn't so much.
Yeah.
He hated 80s, 90s music. He was old-time jazz and big band. He was, and classical like Beethoven, right?
Okay.
So I finally got him to listen to like 41 with jazzy and things. And I got him to appreciate it. He saw Bella Fleck in concert and the Flecktones. He went to a Tim Reynolds solo show with me.
Wow.
It was amazing.
I bet.
And he turned that corner in the last few years of his life, and they became big fans. They were at that show in Vegas the day that I met Dave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was amazing. So in 2005, with the life insurance money that my dad left, my uncle was in charge of it, and he was like, why don't you go take a vacation, go to like Hawaii and like cleanse your soul? And I was like, or I could go to like a whole bunch of Dave Matthews shows in states that I've never seen.
It'll still clean your soul.
I always wanted to go to Alpine. I always wanted to visit Boston. I had a friend that lived in Boston. I stayed on his couch, and we went to the show in Tweeter Center, I think it's called, where they liberated 34 for the first time in like 12 years.
Wow.
And I met friends in Boston who I'm still close with. I just had dinner with one of my friends from Boston who came into town last week.
Crazy.
That I met at that time.
Yeah.
And so I decided I was going to go to like a dozen shows that year.
Yes.
So there were 6 in California, which was already the standard.
Yes.
I just hopped on a plane. I went to Boston. I toured the town. I went to the 2 shows in Boston. I went to, and then I said, let's do Alpine. So my roommate and I was like, I'm funding this. You're coming with me. So
okay.
we flew into Chicago, stayed at a friend I met through the warehouse. We stayed at his house. And I have a funny story about that too, if I have time. But stayed at his house, and then we took a rental car, drove to Milwaukee, stayed in a hotel in Milwaukee, and we went to our shows at Alpine.
Yeah.
It was mind blowing.
I've never heard a bad thing about Alpine.
Yeah.
Never.
And the California shows were the last ones. So it was L.A., then they went up to Sacramento, and then San Diego, L.A., they went up to Sacramento, and then back to San Francisco, and they played where what used to be called Pac Bell Park, where the San Francisco Giants play. And they had a couple guys from Soul Live, then Santana came out too. But in the parking lot in 2005, at the last show that I was going to, which was my 13th show of the tour, my friend, another Jen, there's a lot of Jens that love
a lot of Jens.
My friend Jen, big Dead fan, she was like, hey, my friend bailed on me. This is when they decided that they were going to do the shows at Red Rocks one last time.
Oh yeah.
And then they added that fourth show for the benefit, but they had the 3 nights of Red Rocks, the weekend on the rocks. And my friend is like, my friend bailed on me. Does anyone want the extra ticket to these 3 shows? I pulled out cash, and I was like, how much? And she was like, and this was great. She goes, $60 each.
Oh, shit. Boom.
Here you go.
Sold.
$180 right there. And in the parking lot, she gave me 3 tickets to Red Rocks.
Oh, my God.
For each of the shows. I called up my friend Justin, the same guy that was in the crowd. He is now living in Vegas. And I go, Justin, are you going to Red Rocks? And he's like, I don't have tickets. I said, that's not my question. My question is, are you going to Red Rocks? And he goes, well, I thought about it. And I was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. I'm going to fly into Vegas one way, and I'm going to get in at 7 p.m. on this day. You're going to pick me up at the airport, and why don't we just drive to Denver? And for those that don't know, it's about a 12-hour drive.
Holy shit.
To Denver.
Yikes.
About 12 hours. So from L.A., it's about 16.
Ooh.
And I actually, Genji and I made that drive in 2000. We went to Mile High Stadium.
Oh my God. Wow.
So
16 hours a day.
Yeah. We did it, and we just switched off drivers, right? So we didn't have to stop or anything.
Oh, that's a lot though.
So I said, all right, this is what you're going to do. So him and his girlfriend at the time picked me up at the airport at 7 p.m., and we just drove till 7 a.m., drove all night, and then crashed on his friend's couch.
Yeah.
And then I said, I don't know where I'm staying. I've got my tickets. You know where you're staying, but you don't have tickets. Let's figure it out.
Let's figure it out.
I don't know if he got tickets for the first night, but he definitely did for 2 and 3. And I had some friends that were flying in from Florida and other places, and they all had a hotel room. There's 4, 5, 6 of them. And they're like, hey, if you want to crash in our hotel room, I'll make you a bed. I'll just use the comforter and a pillow and put you on the floor. You give us $10 a night. And I was like, sold.
Done.
Yeah. And at this point, this was, again, 2005, so I'm 26.
Right. You can sleep on the floor and get up the next day.
Today too at 45. I won't wake up the same, but
my back hurts.
That's what I did, and then I got a one-way ticket home from Denver, and we did the 3 shows at Red Rocks, which was just incredible.
I have heard.
The last 3 shows, and then of course the last the week before that, the last 3 shows is I went to the Gorge, and I told Genji, I was like, the first time I went to the Gorge in 2001 was a great experience until it wasn't, because my friend was complaining. I can't have that. I need someone who is definitely on the same level as me. We flew into Seattle, we rented the car, got the camping gear, and we just had the time of our lives at the Gorge in 2005, meeting new people that we still hang out with. And then in 2006, I went back to Alpine, I went back to the Gorge. We drove from LA to the Gorge, which was 24 hours.
Wow.
In a van.
Ooh, down by the river.
So 2005. It's funny because a lot of people, Stand Up, which I believe came out 19 years ago today.
Wow. Congratulations. Happy birthday, Stand Up. Happy birthday.
Yeah, when I woke up, I saw a notification for it, and there's a lot of people that's their least favorite album.
I don't like those words.
Well, I know that. I know. I don't like the least favorite. I'm also that guy that doesn't have what you call a bathroom song, because there's no bad song.
Fuck no.
No such thing to me as a bathroom song.
Not in my vocabulary.
Going to all these concerts, yeah, exactly. Going to these concerts, I trained my bladder, or I would stop drinking far enough ahead that I would not have to stop and use the restroom through the show.
We are twins. I have that same thought process. I'm like, okay, at a concert, you have to ride the line between hydration and dehydration. You got to drink all day, but then you cut yourself off. I probably cut myself off around 2 or 3. That way I can get through my body, and then I know I'm good to go for that concert. I mean, it was a learning process, but I got it down to a fine art now.
That's right. Yeah. So no bad songs, no concert line. Try to soak in every second that you can. The only time that I've ever had to break that rule is my son, who I affectionately named Carter.
Oh, of course.
For obvious reasons.
What?
Yes,
what reason?
He's the greatest drummer that ever lived. And so when I started taking him to shows, and he had a little 6-7-year-old bladder, like, then you can't help it. But
of course, yeah.
and like, oh yeah. So I took once we did that. That was amazing. The last time I was at the Gorge, unfortunately, was 2008. But my girlfriend at the time said, oh, okay, I'll try it with you. And she's not really the outdoors camping type. She's more of the glamping type. But my friend John, who I met in Boston at those shows in 2005, he flew out to Seattle, and I said to him when we were camping, I was like, look, if my girlfriend can survive 3 days of Dave and not complain and just like be in the moment and not be like my other buddy from 2001, I was like, I'm marrying that girl. I'm going to get that ring as soon as possible. So she survived. I don't think she ever wants to go back to the Gorge because, again, 3 days is a lot for her, but she supports me. But I don't need her to be my concert buddy anymore because Carter is, my son.
That's so beautiful.
Literally, we came back from Seattle and the Gorge, and I went and bought the ring like 5 weeks later.
Oh, my God. Oh, I love that story. If she can survive the Gorge, she's the one. I love that. With passion.
She's actually, she's happy to accompany me to the concerts, but she's also great to let the kid accompany me to concerts now.
Oh, that's really sweet. I love how it's a family thing now. I mean, look how much it has evolved in all of these years. You go from being a fanatic, in high school, and it's carried you all the way through parenthood. I mean, wow. There's not a lot of music out there that can do that, right? Most bands don't get a chance to last this long. And of course, it goes both ways. We've seen this band grow up. I mean, look at, Stefan. Jesus, he was literally a baby, and now he's, of course, a grown-ass man with kids and all the things. And so it's been such a beautiful thing. And I think that right now is actually the perfect time to maybe test some of your knowledge. This doesn't tell me or anyone that's listening how big of a fan you are, because, man, trivia is tough. And sometimes it's thinking outside of the box, which we're not necessarily used to doing when it comes to music in this band. We know what we know, and we haven't ever twisted it. So we're going to twist it just a little bit to see what we can do. And so as I was going through my trivia, I'm that nerd. When it comes to the Dave Matthews Band, I have a typed little notebook here with all my trivia in it. I carry it around in my car like it's the Bible, but it is the Bible of the Dave Matthews Band to me. So I'm just like, hey, here's all the facts. So stupid, but that's me. So I was going through all my trivia, and I was like, you know what? What will be the perfect trivia for you? Well, we're going to talk about the Playboy Mansion. Okay. We associate that with sex, whether that's what was happening or not, but we all know what was happening. So I was like, you know what? There's some similarities there between the Playboy Mansion and the Dave Matthews Band, even though they never showed up there. What are the similarities? The word sex, right? And the Dave Matthews Band talks about it all of the time, whether you know it or not, because they're clever with the way they sneak it in. And so that is what we are going to talk about in this trivia. If this offends you, first of all, you probably don't really listen to the Dave Matthews Band, because they talk about sex and drugs and rock and roll. And that is what we talk about when it comes to the Dave Matthews Band. So we're going to do something I like to call pillow talk. And I'll open it this way. A tour through the Dave Matthews Band catalog reveals not only lines dripping in sexual innuendo, but also celebrates the art of cunnilingus. So I open that up to, are you ready for some Dave Matthews Band trivia?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to do this just a little bit different. So when I read the question, we're going to pause. So if you know the answer right away, just pause a little bit. This gives the people that are listening to this or watching this on YouTube the opportunity to play at home. If you're ready, here we go with question 1. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of songs that are definitely about sex. And we're going to see if you can name the song, okay? So I'm going to give you a line, some lyrics of a song, and you tell me which song it comes from. Here we go. This is so fun. I love this. Okay. I'd rather be licking you from your back to your belly. I'll read that one more time for those that are listening. These are lyrics to some song by the Dave Matthews Band. I'd rather be licking you from your back to your belly. Do you know the name of the song, Bryant?
I do. Although in my head, there's a couple of, was it Belly Belly Nice, or was it? I'm hearing it in my head.
Oh yeah. No, it's so hard. Think that I'm going to.
So, yeah. Was it Belly Belly Nice? Am I off? It's not, is it?
Keep thinking.
Yeah.
This is good. It's so much harder. I suck at this. I had somebody actually reverse the question on me the other day, and I was like, this is my show, sir. And it's really hard when the answers aren't in front of you.
Everybody get together.
Gonna make love shine. Do you know? Love inside you when all the darkness falls away.
Why am I drawing a blank on this?
Come on. Oh, we're almost there. Sharon, come on, you're almost there.
Everybody get together, gonna make love shine. Man, hit me.
Shake me like a monkey.
Shake me like a monkey, of course.
You were almost there. You were like right there where they say, shake me like a monkey. Yeah. I'm forever yours. Okay.
I don't know why I blanked on that one.
That's okay. No, I know. It makes it so difficult. Okay, here we go. It's question 2. Sour as my fingers, dirty pickpocket. I can still taste you, and I won't. Nope, that's okay. I'm going to go all the way. You're like, I know this one. Sour as my fingers, dirty pickpocket. I can still taste you. I won't wash my hands. Dear God, Dave Matthews. That is a song called 7. It is part of the group of songs we always talk about as the number songs, right? There are several that are numbers. This one is different. It is 7, but it is spelled out versus just the number 7. So there's some more trivia there for you. Okay, question 3. You know how I love to go down on you, but the joy is steeped in sin. I'll read it one more time for our listeners at home or at work or in the car, wherever you are. You know how I love to go down on you, but the joy is steeped in sin. He says it so dang fast. Yes, I'm ready. Do you know?
You ain't ever had
my cornbread. That's right. That's right. I love that.
A little bit of heaven and a little bit of...
Oh, yeah. I love it. Okay, let's switch. Let's do some regular Dave Matthews Band trivia just because, why not, right? We've got you here. We love it. And I love this one because I had this picked out before I even knew that you had a son named Carter. So let's talk about Carter. Of course, he is the drummer, the infamous drummer of the Dave Matthews Band. If people don't like the Dave Matthews Band, they know about Carter because he's a legend. He will always be a legend. He does things that no one else does. He has like this rhythm of his own, right? And so, okay, Let's talk about Carter. What band was Carter playing with from 1984 to 1990? So this would have been right before the Dave Matthews Band. He was in a band. Yeah. What was the name of that band?
I honestly actually don't know the answer to this one.
That's okay. I tell people... And I love that because that is an opportunity to learn more, right, about the band, which is what I love. I often tell people just because I have a podcast, about the Dave Matthews Band does not mean I know shit. It just means I like to talk about it. I like to learn about them. And so that's part of trivia is if we don't know, then we do know, and we'll hold on to it for the next time. Okay, so the name of the band that Carter was in from 1984 to 1990 was a band called Secrets.
Oh, okay.
Secrets. And that'll be easy to remember because you'll be like, I can't remember it. Oh, shit, because it was a secret. Secrets. Okay, last question. We talked a lot about, some big venues, some big concerts. And I think when a fan or someone that's getting into the Dave Matthews Band, they're going to hear a lot of lingo that they might not know what that means in the beginning, because we do have a lot of acronyms for songs, and then we talk about places like Deer Creek. If you Google that, you might see it, but that venue is not even actually called Deer Creek anymore. So we have some things that we say that kind of just throw people off, but there's been a lot of big venues, a lot of concerts that, of course, have just gone out on vinyl or gone out their live music, and that's what the band is, of course, known for. But from time to time, Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds step away to do their own shows. And so in 1996, they did one of the best shows, one of the best known shows when it comes to the Dave and Tim world. They teamed up to do what we call and what is called Live at Luther College. So this was released as a 2 CD live set. Do you know where Luther College is?
Ooh, I know it's East Coast. Well, that doesn't really narrow it down. I think it's Northeast, but actually, and it's funny because I'm a college professor. Community college.
There's a lot of colleges out there.
The West Coast is way different, right?
Of course.
It's like, East Coast gets like 20 shows in a week. And
yeah.
Out here, we're lucky. Like California, we don't even have one show.
Oh, I know. I feel bad for you guys, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm in Arkansas. He's not coming here either.
Pennsylvania?
No.
Is it Pennsylvania?
Okay. No.
Man, I have a lot of trivia questions that I know that are very obscure, and I am.
I mean, this one just blew my mind because I was like, what? I was kind of thinking the same thing as you were. Like, I was just thinking East Coast because, 96, they did a lot of shows on the East Coast. That's where they're, originated, kind of started from. But it is in Iowa. What the fuck?
By the way, I didn't get a chance to do it, but that was my next guess.
It is in Iowa.
I know that everybody probably says that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it makes a great trivia question, because everyone assumes East Coast. That's where we were. But damn, if it wasn't done in Iowa. So there's some trivia, some takeaways for you guys to tuck away.
That's where we learned that Faulty One creatively is the faulty first song that he wrote.
That's what he said. That's what he said, right? So we'll believe him. Well, Bryant, I cannot thank you enough for sharing. I mean, this has been such a fun show. I have laughed. I had some tears, and I was like, uh-oh, you're about to ruin my makeup. Things are happening. Thankfully, this is a podcast, so most people don't see it, but you have made me laugh, and I love that. I love that, it's just so fun. Obviously, we have never met. We don't know it. We know each other now, but we can just get together, and this is just proof of the fan life behind this band, as strangers essentially can come together with this one common bond that they absolutely love, and we can talk for days about that, and we're really into it. So thank you so much for being willing to share your story. I know so many people are going to love and laugh with me, so thank you for sharing all of that. Moons Over My Hammy, that is how I'm going to remember you forever, but I hear, a lot of people call you that too. So thank you again, Bryant, so much for being willing to do this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
So guys, thank you. You're welcome back anytime. And so if you're wondering, how in the world does someone get on the Space Between podcast? Well, honestly, here's what you do. You can message me on any of the social platforms. Of course, on Facebook, I am under Renae Lynn. That's my personal. It's a public page. There is a Facebook page. It's simply called the Space Between podcast. On Instagram, it's simply the Space Between _POD. And then, of course, one more, we're on TikTok, because, who doesn't like to make funny videos about the Dave Matthews Band? So that's simply under the Space Between podcast. So just message me on any of those platforms. Say, hey, I'd love to share your journey. If you have someone that that has an interesting journey, you can always nominate people as well. But in the meantime, guys, stay tuned. look at those socials. We've got some fun things that are about to happen because, of course, we are in the height. We are in the anticipation of the 2024 summer season. It is about to start. And so that means the Space Between podcast is on the road. We will be doing opening parties all over this nation. So definitely tune in. Come and see me. Tell me about your journey. We'll be doing live interviews at a lot of the stops across the U.S. So in the meantime, guys, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band. And thank you, Bryant.